Part two of Eggun and Boveda worship veneration. So that's where that comes through. Like I said, I met that one friend of mine who still does it that way. And it's in the corner in one of his rooms, and it has a circle drawn on the wall and has lines with cascarilla drawn through it. So it would be, like I said, a circle, a half circle on the wall, and then lines going through the circle to represent sun rays. And on the bottom, on the floor that you're actually stepping on, you're going to draw a half circle to connect to the circle that's on the wall with lines also. Then they probably use different firmas or patipembes or oduns, whatever they practice, palo mayombe, because that's one thing you have to keep in mind. Palo mayombe is very different from Orisha worship. It's not the same. It's people think, oh, well, Zarabanda has some of the same qualities as Ogun. So, whatever, or Nasasi or Guru Finda, but the bottom line is if you look at the map of Africa, West Africa, where Nigeria is, and the Congo are pretty far apart. That's like maybe New York City saying that's Yoruba land, and maybe I don't know, Utah as Congo. That's a long difference apart, and it's different. Like I said, tribes who have different things, different belief systems. So these 7 tribes that went into Cuba, Puerto Rico, mainly these 7 tribes. There could have possibly been more, but they all had to learn how to get along, and that's why you have such a unique mixture of faith in Cuba and the religion of Santeria or Cariocha, Ifa, Palomonte, Palomayombe. People say, well, they resemble each other so much. Well, they lived with each other for, a couple hundred years now, and they've learned to, communicate and get along, where back in West Africa and back in Africa, they possibly fought amongst each other. So, to answer your question, this is not a traditional Santeria Orisha worship shrine. This is not. The Boveda is not. But, I make videos and I talk about doing things. Some people do things their own way. I, for instance, I'm one of those persons. I believe as long as I get results, I don't break the traditions of Ifa, the rules of Ifa. But, there's some people who continue to try to walk in the footsteps of others who were mere mortals. And there's some people who try to, follow other people. I just try to follow the man who brought the message, which in my belief is Orumila. He is the messenger that brought the Oduns of Ifa and brought the wisdom down. And in that, I've also venerate the Orishas. So it's a lot of information to take in, and it's kind of hard because for the non-initiate, they're not going to be able to get a lot of information. They can if they Google and look it up, but for somebody who doesn't know, it's going to be kind of hard. That's why you have some people who once practiced Lucumi, Criollo, Ifa, or Santeria from Cuba, and once they meet a traditional African priest, they switch styles. Or vice versa. An African priest might prefer to do things the way they do it in Cuba. Or some people like me do both, Like I said, but for the non-initiated, it's kind of hard because you don't know what to stop, where it started or where to start looking for your answers. So that was actually a really good question, because people always talk so much about the Boveda and getting to know your muertos and working with your Eggun. Well, how do you do that, And, the Boveda, it's not just the Boveda spiritual. It's seeing somebody who practices espiritismo, which is not which is different from Santeria. It's not Santeria, it's Spiritismo. And they can do what's called spiritual masses, misas spirituales. And they give you these masses and they communicate with your Eggun and they find out what ancestor is watching you. You see what I'm saying? So it could be a lot of things. It seems like a lot, I know, but that's why it's very important that you find somebody who is open-minded and not just, oh no, this is the way it is and yada yada yada. Times have changed, and people want to know, hey, well, what does this come from? Why is this? Back hundreds of years ago, our ancestors couldn't really explain too well. But now, as we start looking and probing for answers, and we have archaeologists, anthropologists, we can start looking and making better connections and finding out better information on how to connect the dots. So I hope that gave you a good answer on the bóveda espiritual and veneration of ancestors. If you have more questions on the subject, feel free to email me or call me. My information's on the page. And have a good day. Boruboya and Borubosheshe.